Okay. So the way we can hate to, I don't think that's You're already going. You don't need to touch it. Just plug it in. My man is 50% terrific.
Oh gosh, I don't think I'm scared to walk up there. Yeah, if you have any afterwards, just grab me. Thank you.
Sure. Test, 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 test. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to the People's Town Hall tonight. We just want to ask that you all squeeze together. We do have a extremely full house tonight. We think every seat is going to be needed. So get cozy with your neighbors. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Turn on the mic. So first, that's a good sign. That's a good sign. Keep it up. Keep it up.
We haven't aged at all. Oh my God.
Hi, Hi, folks. We're letting the folks who didn't RSVP in to find a seat. So if you can get close to your neighbor so there's some extra seats available on the ends, that would be great. Thank you so much. Okay, folks, I'm giving a 2-minute warning bell. We're going to start in 2 minutes, so people can take their seats.
If you are still looking for a seat, we have a bunch of seats over here. So feel free to come in and we'll get started in 2 minutes. Thank you.
Just keep it turning, I guess. If they want to ask a question, they just gave it to me.
Next to your name so they know that that number means you.
Yeah.
All right. Good evening, everyone. How are we doing tonight? Thank you. What an amazing crowd we have. I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. I am Shasti Conrad. I am the chair of the Washington State Democrats. Yes, thank you. And I will also be your moderator for this evening. I am so proud to lead the Washington State Democrats. We are the only state in the entire country that went a little more Democratic in the 2024 election. So we are really proud of the work. But we know there's more work to be done, and we absolutely need to be making sure that we are organizing in every part of this state, in all of our communities, and that we are doing the work to make sure that we're building as big of a party and as big of a community as we possibly can. So we are here tonight because a representative democracy requires that our representatives hear from the people, hear from us. Congressman Dan Newhouse hasn't hosted a single town hall open to the public since 2023. Yeah, that's a minute. So we are here to show him how a real democracy works, where you hear from the people, not just your campaign donors. He says he's going to host one soon. No dates, no times, no locations, just soon. Well, soon doesn't cut it when our healthcare is on the line. Soon won't help when our neighbors are being rounded up and sent to foreign prisons. Soon doesn't do anything for the people who are watching their 401ks get wiped out, watching the price of groceries go up and up and up, and watching as the Republicans in Congress dither in the face of President Trump's disastrous global tariffs and horrible economic policies, if you can even call it that. Soon doesn't help our farmers who used to feed the world and now have to watch their crops wither on the vine because they can't find workers and other countries can't afford our food because of these horrible economic policies. What we need is more of our Washington state, and less of that other Washington. Our Washington works to help everyone, from the Columbia River all the way up to our good neighbors in Canada. The other Washington only cares about appeasing President Trump, even when he's leading our economy off a cliff. Our Washington is focused on finding solutions. The other Washington keeps creating new problems, from launching a trade war with our allies to cratering the economy and mishandling our national security. Our Washington has the best economy in the country, had the best economy last year, where high-skilled workers and our blue-collar labor union siblings benefit, where we had the highest minimum wage, paid family leave, and a capital gains tax that ensures billionaires like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos take the burden off struggling families. The other Washington has sent 250,000 Americans to the unemployment line so far, and they have destroyed consumer confidence and is sending our economy towards a recession. I am so grateful for our leaders in our Washington who are working overtime to make sure that we don't end up like that other Washington. Now, our program tonight, we get to hear from some of the people who are working on the front lines to ensure that Washington State has a big, bright future. And before I begin, I really want to say a big thank you to our staff who have done Herculean efforts to bring tonight together. Isabella Maffei, Maria Leininger, Stephen Reed, Brett Andres, and Kalea Isabor. A big thank you to the whole team at Washington State Democrats. We did this in less than a month. So take notes, Dan Newhouse. You can get this done. It's possible. So our amazing guests tonight include our wonderful former governor and former congressman from right here. Jay Inslee is here in the house tonight. We have registered nurse Jacob Garcia is here. We have amazing community leader and former candidate for state senate Maria Beltran is here. We have our U.S. Army veteran and member of the Yakima Nation, Asa Washins is here. And we also have the amazing Nin Koo, who is with United Auto Workers. 45091 is here in the house tonight. So a couple of housekeeping notes for tonight. If you have a question that you wanted to ask our panel tonight, you should have received a number at check-in, so a card with a number on it. And we are using a random number generator to pick who gets to ask questions so that everyone has an equal opportunity. We will display the numbers, I believe, on the screen, where when you can see your number appear, please make your way to the microphone, which is right up here, to ask your question. We ask that you please take no longer than 1 minute to ask your question so that we can get in as many people as possible in the limited time that we have available tonight. So, on to tonight's event. It is now my great pleasure to introduce Washington's former 3-term governor and 7-term Congressman Jay Inslee. Yes. Governor Inslee's leadership is deeply rooted in the values of our Washington. He developed his passion for the environment hiking the Cascades, and he worked his way through college operating bulldozers. He married his high school sweetheart, Trudy, who's here with us tonight. So happy to have Trudy along as well. And graduated from Willamette Law School before starting a successful law practice right here in Selah, where he and Trudy raised their 3 sons and also had 4 acres of hay, I hear. He was elected to the state legislature from Selah before his first successful run for Congress. In Congress, Jay passed the Yakima River Enhancement Act, and he was a vocal proponent of clean energy and climate solutions well before the realities of climate change were well known to all. As governor, yes, a true trailblazer. Thank you for that leadership. As governor, he helped Washington enact the highest minimum wage in the country and one of the most robust paid family leave programs across the United States. So please join me in welcoming Governor Jay Inslee.
Thank you. This is so much fun to be with my friends. Everything I ever learned about democracy, I learned in the Yakima Valley. So I want to thank everyone. I've seen some friends here. Eileen Kane, I literally remember the day I doorbelled Eileen Kane. 1988. Mary Beth Bradley, who's done so much work in our elections. Is Dan Peters here tonight? Dan Peters, son of Doug and Marge. Trudy and I just took a little walk on the Greenway. Dan Peters is a great teacher who was one of the people who defeated the people who wanted to put an authoritarian in a school board, and Dan defeated that person. Good work, Dan. Doug, his father was one of the leaders that gave us the Greenway. And when I'm here and when I see all my friends, I see a microcosm of America of what we're going through here tonight that we've come to talk about. And I'm not going to talk too long. I'll make a few comments because I mostly want to listen to folks. But I was thinking about what we're faced right now in the Valley. You know, I understand the Valley, having represented it two terms in the legislature, one term in the U.S. Congress. And I got to know some of the things that were important to the Valley. Water is important to the Valley. Markets for our apples and wine is important to the Valley. Support for our veterans is important because we have a large veterans population here in the Valley. Support for folks to work in the agricultural sector is important. To have people here to work in the agricultural sector. A sense of justice is important in the Yakima Valley. And your presence tonight is very heartening to me because your presence coming here tonight means that you have not given up on protecting any of those values, that you are here to exercise your voice, that you have not been dissuaded or dismissed or not disheartened, that you believe in action and you understand how precious this thing we have, a democracy. And I want to just say something about democracy because of all the things we're going to talk about tonight, to me, that is the thing that we have to cherish closest to our hearts, because without that, we have nothing. And I want to quote a son of the Yakima Valley, William O. Douglas, Justice William O. Douglas. And Justice William O. Douglas, he did a lot of wonderful things to bring civil rights to America. But he said something, I'm going to paraphrase a quote because I don't have the exact language. But he said, oppression does not come suddenly, like a curtain coming down. It comes quietly in shades of twilight. And we must be aware of that twilight, lest we fall victim ultimately to the darkness. And what your presence here tonight means that you believe so passionately in democracy, you understand Donald Trump is a threat to the most basic value of the democratic values of this nation, and we will not surrender that democracy to him. And I want to... That's what your presence means tonight, that you're willing to stand up for democracy and that you will not be intimidated. Look, he's trying to intimidate these voices. He's trying to intimidate law firms so they can't represent Americans. He's trying to intimidate colleges. We have a speaker from Heritage College. He should not be able to tell Heritage College what to teach at Heritage College. This is a decision for Heritage College. But what it means to me is that you are not intimidated. You have the courage to stand up. So you're inspiring me for being here tonight. Now let me just tell you, if I may, why I'm here and I feel that my future is entwined with yours. First off, our family is the Yakima Valley family. Trudy and I raised 3 boys here. They've turned out pretty well. They've married wonderful women. They've got 6 grandchildren. And a large part of their success is because of the public school teachers in the SELA public school system. And what they did for those 3 boys is now something they're living as very stalwart citizens, as straight as an old oak tree, raising their kids. And that comes from the SELA public school system. And when somebody attacks Head Start, as Donald Trump is doing, I'm coming to the Yakima Valley to speak against it. Okay? That's what he's doing. I know so many veterans who lived here when I was practicing law to help them. I just met a veteran named Rick Wilson. Rick, where are you? I see Rick Wilson. I just met him walking in. So he served in the early 70s. He can't get a hold, I don't know if he's done this, but many of his colleagues can't get into a hold of anybody in the Veterans Administration right now because of Elon Musk think that this is a communist plot to take care of veterans. We're standing up for veterans in the Yakima Valley. That's what we're doing. When I was in Congress, one of the great victories I had was getting our apples into Japan because Japan had prohibited us from selling our apples. And we got our apples into Japan. I just read yesterday, we just lost 99% of the market for India of our apples. Just got, as I pulled in, talked to the guy who got elected because he said, Jay, the only way to get elected is go out and stand on the street corner with your sign. And that's the only reason I got elected. And now Donald Trump comes in and threatens his livelihood by taking away markets for our apples. We won't stand for that. This is the greatest food producing place in the whole planet with the hardest working people and the best soil. And it deserves a president that will open markets to our products, not close them. And that's what we got to make sure that we stand up for. And I just want to mention one thing. We have made profound, in only one party, the Democratic Party, and I'm welcoming all comments tonight from Republicans and independents and Democrats alike. All these comments are welcome tonight. But it has been our party that has advanced health care in our nation. Under President Obama, we expanded this. We have created Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and the Children's Health Plan here in the state of Washington. Those are sacred things because it means our families have the right to health care. And right now, I'm telling you, as kind of Paul Revere is saying, he said the British are coming. I'm telling you the Republicans are coming for our health care. And the reason is they have passed a budget that will necessitate carving out $500 billion out of Medicaid and the health care of our children and our families. And they can run and hide from that. But it is our job to blow the whistle for that right now. I'm saying the 4th Congressional District deserves a congressperson who will stand up today, tomorrow, and the next day to say we're not going to cut Medicaid. And I have to tell you, the Yakima Valley deserves that. And these guys are going around saying, oh, no, we're doing. But I'm telling you, the budget they passed and what they might pass in the next 48 hours necessitates cutting Medicaid. It's the only way they can make their budget balanced while they give these billion-dollar tax cuts to Donald Trump's friends. And by the way, who thinks Donald Trump didn't call his buddies and tell them he was going to change his tariffs so they could make money in the Wall Street? Who believes that? Nobody, okay? So I am looking forward to your comments. I'm going to take them back. I'm going to share them with Patty Murray and Maria Cantwell and the rest of our delegation. I'll share it with Congressman Newhouse too. When we get done, I'm going to call him up. I know Dan. He is a gracious person. I have got along with him well personally, and I'm going to share with him what you've had to say tonight in a gracious manner. There's one thing I'm going to tell him for sure. We are creating clean energy jobs in Central Washington like crazy. In Grant County, in Tri-Cities, Group 14, Helion Fusion, 12 Company, Atlas Agro. We're doing all these clean energy jobs. We cannot have him vote to kill these clean energy jobs that simultaneously are fighting climate change. He signed a letter saying, don't do this. Hats off to Dan for doing this. But by gum, he needs to stand up and be counted and vote against these things so we can keep our clean energy going. Looking for your comments. Thanks for that.
Thank you so much. Now we're going to hear from the rest of our panel, and they're just going to do short introductions so that you can hear their amazing stories, and then we will get to your questions. So we'll start with Jacob.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jacob Garcia. As they introduced, I am a registered nurse. I work out in Sunnyside. Oh, okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Jacob Garcia. I'm a registered nurse. I work out in Sunnyside. I've been working as a nurse since 2016. I kind of have a very personal connection to getting started as a registered nurse. My grandmother, who was a migrant farm worker, again, moving all over the place, kind of going where the fields were, decided when she settled into Tri-Cities that there was a discrepancy between migrant farm workers and their access to healthcare. So what did she end up doing? Being a strong Latina woman, she decided that that was unacceptable. She helped found La Clinica, which became Tri-Cities Community Health, and really helped with making sure that disparities in healthcare, that people have access to healthcare, can get medications to make sure that they're healthy and that they continue to work, happens. And so I've been inspired by her, and as I kind of continue to learn a little bit about me too, I work for Heritage University as well, helping bring up new nursing students in a holistic approach that can empower them and help with driving change within healthcare, because we know that healthcare in our current system is not sustainable. And so I was really drawn to Heritage when their previous director reached out to me and recruited me to join full-time to really help and inspire the next generation to take up and lead. And so that's a little bit about me.
Well, Jacob, it's good to see you again. Hey everyone, I'm Maria Beltran. I'm the proud daughter of Mexican farm workers who came to this country in search of a better quality of life, and they came here to the Yakima Valley, where if you were ready to show up on time and work really hard, you'd be able to get a job in a heartbeat. And I'm so proud to say that I was born and raised right here in Yakima, and that I get to call Central Washington home. I've spent the vast majority of my life now. I started out as a community organizer when I was in middle school. And I know you're thinking, how old are you? I get that a lot. But you know, over the course of my life, I've been a community organizer, advocate, and have worked alongside many of you over the last 12 years in making sure that we're helping local elected officials be held accountable. We've helped elect folks up and down the ballot. And most recently, I did run for state senate in the new Latino majority district in the Yakima Valley. And thank you. And you know, what's happening right now, what's happening in our country, what's happening under the current administration is not normal. Absolutely not normal. But it's up to us to show up. It's up to us to hold our elected officials accountable at every level of government. Doesn't matter if you're a Democrat, a Republican, nonpartisan. It is our responsibility to hold folks accountable when they're not doing their job. And this is what we're doing tonight. And as we see, this administration is trying to divide us. It's trying to ping us against each other. But if you look at what's happening across the country, if you look at what's happening in Central Washington, instead of dividing us, they are unifying us. Look, it's a Wednesday night. There's more than 200 people here tonight. This is just one example of a way to show up and do the work. Just last weekend, we had demonstrations all across the 4th Congressional District. All across. And here in Yakima alone, we had more than 1,300 people on 40th Avenue with signs ready to make change. And let me tell you, those folks who showed up this weekend, the folks who are in this room, folks who are showing up and doing rallies, goes beyond partisan lines, right? Far beyond. We're talking Democrats, Independent, Republicans, everything, everyone and everyone. So that just goes to show that we're clearly not headed in the right direction. People are not happy, and we're here to continue to show up and do the work. So thank you.
Hey, Niklawit, Namuma, Wanexistili Wanut. Good evening. My name is Asa Washings. That's my English name. My Yakima name is Tiliwanut, and roughly that translates to the man with no blood. And so, some of them here, you know. And so, it's a warrior's name, and it's one of those names where you kind of grow into it. And so for myself, I I joined the Army, United States Army, from 2002 to 2006. Raise the hands, got any veterans in the audience? Veterans. All right. All right. Thank you. You got any? If your family member was a veteran, all right? And if you know a veteran, raise your hand. If you know a veteran, raise your hand. You all know me, so all you should raise your hand. You know? So I appreciate you guys showing up tonight. You know, for myself, I come from a long family of warriors, going back to the treaty, 1855. My great-great-grandfather signed the treaty. And then from there, just on my father's side and on my mom's side, you know, going back to the First World War, Second War, Vietnam, Korea, Desert Storm, and so it's kind of, I don't know, it just kind of happens. You just kind of fall into it. You don't know that when you sign up, and so for myself, you know, during the Army to help pay for college, broke college student, I decided to join. Signed up to jump out of airplanes for extra $150 a month, you know? and so, hey, that's a lot of money when you're a broke college student. And so stationed in Korea, did that for 12 months, and then stationed at Fort Bragg, deployed to Afghanistan 03 to 04, did that. And it's just really crazy just thinking about how long ago that was, as like a different lifetime, you know? And so, but it's still fresh in my memory, and so, being a veteran, you know, it's not. It's like I think it's like the 1% of America joins the military, and so not everyone can do it. So we're thankful, and it's kind of hard seeing what's going on in D.C. with all these cuts. They cut the VA by 80,000 workers. You know, that's crazy. And so like tonight we're here to talk about a response. And so if you overlay the Yakima Nation on a map, it covers, our territory goes up and down the 4th from border to the river. And so that the 4th Congressional District is really close to my heart, because that's our home. And just speaking, you know, the valley here, well, we call the valley Lower Valley, we call it the Valley too. So these, but up here in Upper Valley, I guess, where the Sun Dome is, that it used to be a big village there for our people, and so that was one of our bigger villages before, you know, everyone showed up, and so, you know, I'm just, you know, playing nice. You know, our family's been here for about 31 generations, going back, and so it's good to be here tonight. But you know, we must keep coming together like this and make sure, you know, our reps know that we're still here. You know, we need to keep fighting. We need to keep showing up, and so as we move forward collectively, as a state, there's over 500,000 veterans in Washington State. You know, think about that, 500,000. That's all home. Here in Central Washington, there's about 40,000 veterans in Central Washington. You know, and there's a lot of need that's, you know, as a veteran, when you put your name on the line to serve your country, it's like a blank check. And so that needs to be, you know, if we survive, you know, coming home, the services that are owed to us, you know, like not trying to be some way about it, like healthcare, mental care. There's all these things that we can provide more for our veterans and their families. That their families are a huge part of a veteran while they're in active service, and so the families are just as important as the veteran themselves. As Native Americans, we serve the highest per capita in the military, and so out of any other group, I guess, and so there's, you know, we just like to fight, you know, and so, you know, and so I'm glad we're here. I'm glad I'm here, and I know these guys. I remember Jay. I call him Jay now because he's not governor. I just call him Jay. I remember Jay when he's at the corner of Lateral A and 97 with the sign, you know. Yeah, just make sure you don't put a roundabout there, all right? So I appreciate you guys' time. This is really good, and so I look forward to you guys' questions, especially on behalf of our veterans. Thank you. Night.
Tough speech to follow. Hi, my name's Nin. I'm originally from California, and I came up higher. Okay, thank you. I came to Washington to pursue a PhD because Washington State is our land-grant university, and it has a very long legacy of doing really great applied science that helps people in our community. Specifically, I'm researching hops because we grow a lot of it here. If you haven't seen it or smelled it. And just to clarify, and not to put out an image of something I'm not, I'm a member of UAW 4591. I'm not an auto worker, I'm a graduate student. We represent about 100,000 academic employees, including grad students like myself, postdocs, and about 300,000 actual auto, aerospace, and agricultural implement workers, including, you know, those green tractors you see. They're part of the union. So yeah, I'll keep it really short. I'm really new to organizing. I have a lot to learn, but I was really motivated to join because at my university, WSU, healthcare is a really big issue. And I've invested a lot of time to help people. What I realized is I can't do it alone, and we need ability to actually bargain with the university as equals. And that's why I really helped with our unionization process and got really involved with helping people, but realized we still have so much more to do, and it's not just us, it's everyone else. And UAW 4121 or UW stepped in and helped us actually get unionized. And to me, that really spelled the importance of solidarity, and it's rising tides lifts all boats. It's not me against you, it's, hey, how do we help everyone else?
Thank you. We have such a great panel. I am noticing that we've got a lot of people that are still standing. If you have a seat that's open next to you, can you raise your hand? And I do see that we've got some over here especially. So if any of you that are standing want to find seats, we do have some throughout the room, and we want to make sure that you get seated. And I also want to note that we are live streaming tonight on our YouTube page, and there's a little bit of a lag, so those of you who are watching on the live stream, we apologize, but we're glad that you are joining us on a Wednesday night. You're watching us, so thank you very much. We've got two seats right up here, and another seat right up here. Okay, great, thank you. I'm going to start with a question for each of the panelists, and then we will go to your questions in just a moment. So I'm going to start with our wonderful former Governor Inslee. Why do you think that Trump's tariff announcement and these economic policies that he's been rolling out have cratered the stock market, and what will its impact be on Washingtonians' pocketbooks? And there was even a new announcement just today around the tariffs and rolling back, but keeping them on China. What is this? What do we make of it, and what's the impact that it's going to have on folks right here in our state?
Well, I studied economics at the University of Washington. That was my major. And one of the things I learned, and this is a very well-known economic principle, is when you turn your economy over to a narcissistic sociopath who doesn't understand economics, who thinks he wants to dominate the world and doesn't care literally what happens to your prices. When he was told, what do you think about the prices of all these goods going up? And he said, quote, I could care less. When you do that, really bad things happen. And that is the situation that we're in. And the Yakima Valley is probably no more victimized than any other part of the United States because we were so export dependent, particularly in the agricultural economy. This is what drives the economy of the Yakima Valley. So of all the Americans who've lost a lot of retirement savings, A lot of the Americans who are going to lose their jobs because of the price impacts associated with this, and whose prices are going to go up for everything they buy. Of all the Americans who are going to suffer from that, probably people in the Yakima Valley are going to suffer perhaps the most. And so we got to speak against this. And I want to tell you that your being here tonight is having an impact. What his retreat, this was a massive retreat by this guy who said, I'll never, never, never give in because I'm the toughest cowboy to ever walk down the street. He just gave in big time, okay? Now the reason he did that is because Americans spoke up and spoke out and went out on the streets and said, we're not going to take this. So we got to be out there, and I'm glad you're here tonight.
Thank you. Jacob, the budget framework which Representative Newhouse helped pass requires cuts to Medicaid, or as we call it in Washington, Apple Health, to make the numbers work. Nearly 40% of the people living in this district rely on Apple Health for their life-saving care. How will cuts to Apple Health impact the people that are right here in this district?
No, that's a great question. And again, maybe just to help level set, because unless you're probably utilizing Apple Care, or Medicaid, you probably don't know what it is. So what is it? Medicare and Apple Health helps with making sure that people who are living within poverty, children have insurance, and then adults who cannot pay, and then elders can also get insurance. So some elders have both dual Medicaid and Medicare because, again, they are within the poverty threshold that requires both. So what does this really do? It allows people to be able to access health care, whether it is seeing their primary care, whether it is seeing a specialist for heart disease that they may have, and have their medications managed with them versus a primary care. It also allows them to be able to pay for medications. So thinking about kind of kids, if someone has asthma, how is that kid going to be able to get asthma medication without insurance? And how are they going to do well in school, especially with PE? So these will really impact people in our area with being able to have access to healthcare. And it's also going to impact all of us too. So if people do not have access to healthcare, what are kind of the impacts to all of us? It means that the ED is going to become the primary care. People are going to come into the ED sicker because, again, it's not like they're going to be able to just get off work and then go right away for every little thing. They're going to wait until they can't function anymore, they can't get around anymore. They're going to be waiting until the last minute before calling that ambulance or asking one of their family members to take them in. And so the ED is going to become that primary care, which is going to lead to increased wait times because there's going to be a lot of people utilizing that. 40% of our area has some sort of Apple Care and uses it. And so if we have these people utilizing the ED as their primary care, which is not designed to, you're going to have those beds being filled, and then these people are going to be sick enough that they're probably also going to be admitted into the hospital. And there's only a finite amount of beds and staff. So that's going to impact all of us if we get in a car crash or say we are having appendicitis or appendix bust. How are we going to be able to get care locally? We might have to be starting shipping out farther and farther away to get care because the local community cannot provide for it. And just again, just the impact for all of us at the end of the day too is if Medicare gets cut, this is going to affect our hospitals and clinics especially. So just to make it more local here for Yakima, I was doing some research just to find some numbers just to kind of put it in perspective because sometimes just talking about it doesn't seem that tangible. For Apple Care, especially for Medicaid, $477 million for Yakima came from that payer. Any decrease is going to decrease the ability for Yakima to be able to offer the current services and could lead to them cutting departments that are not making money or cut services because they can't afford to keep them open anymore. And the same thing is going to happen for Sunnyside, for Toppenish. For Sunnyside, I think they were reliant to $101 million and about $79 million for Toppenish as well. If these places close down, where's the nearest one? I can think Cadillac is about an hour and a half away, and then maybe Kittitas, and I couldn't think of anyone else that's super close. So you're going to be having to go farther, and you already lost one hospital here for your communities. And so this impact is going to be quite devastating. And I don't want to sound alarmist, but if that cut does happen, the revenue is going to go down. Hospitals are going to make some tough decisions, and they're going to cut services or risk going under completely.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you. It's pretty horrible when you put it laid out like that. Yeah. Maria, Washington's farms rely on the labor of many immigrants and folks right here in our community to ensure that the food that we grow can actually get to market. What has been the reaction in the communities that you belong to and work with in the face of the Trump administration's ICE raids and targeting of green card holders for their political beliefs or for any kind of activism?
Tough question. So, when President Trump signed the executive order announcing mass deportations across the country, within a few days, we started seeing them across the lower valley. We're talking within a few days, I think 2 or 3 days after that executive order was signed, we started seeing ICE raids in Sunnyside, Toppenish, Granger, Titan, and Wapatov. Yeah, and that created fear. It created fear amongst our community because they were racially profiling people. If you drove a certain truck, if you looked like a certain person, they were pulling you aside. So it created fear. And what does that fear lead to? Direct impacts. Folks stopped going to work. They stopped going to the grocery stores. They stopped supporting our small businesses because they were too afraid to go out because of getting pulled over and detained. Kids stopped going to school. People stopped going to work. So there was direct impacts right there, right then. Not only did it create fear, but it also, for the first time considering the previous administration, we are seeing the agriculture industry, farmers, growers, actually standing up and saying how bad the current administration is for our agriculture industry for the first time. Because what happens when people are afraid to go to work and cherry season is just around the corner? Guess what? People are not gonna go pick those apples, those cherries, those pears. So what does the industry have to do? The industry then has to rely on H-2A workers. But if you're a small, medium farmer, you probably don't even qualify to bring in H-2A workers to the lower valley. So it creates a local dynamic within the workforce, within the industry. And similar to you, Governor, I also studied economics at Gonzaga and the basic supply and demand. If there's not enough workers, what does that mean? That means that the H-2A workers, it's gonna cost us more to bring them into the lower valley and to hop around and to pick our crops. So in the long run, we're all gonna have to pay more when we're going to the grocery store because the cost of labor just went up. And then one thing that I also wanna highlight is even though there was fear in our community because of the ICE raids across the valley, there was also a bright spot. Some of the earliest rallies and demonstrations that we saw this year were around supporting our undocumented community. And those rallies that naturally came were from members of the community who wanted to see action. Just people from the community who stepped up and said, you know what, I'm gonna be on First in Yakima from this time and this time, show up. And those were the first wave of demonstrations that we saw against this administration. And guess what? There's more coming. Because not that far ago, we had a Medicaid rally down here. Yeah, hands off. And just last weekend, we had another one, right? So that was just one wave of the continuing support and momentum and energy that folks are showing up and trying to make a difference.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, every day there's a new sort of crisis or chaos that is coming from the Trump administration and from the Republican Congress. And so Signalgate, which was just like a week ago, feels like forever ago, where they released our national security plans in a Signal chat. But it provided a very troubling look at the way that the Trump administration is bungling our national security. So Asa, as a U.S. Army veteran, what alarms you most about those revelations, and what would have happened if you had done anything like that? Can you imagine? And yeah, what do you think about what's going on in the national security space?
I'd still be doing push-ups right now. That ever happened to me. With these, our Joint Chief of Staffs, our Secretaries of Army, Defense, Navy, Coast Guard, all those, they're career officers that dedicated their life to the military, and through their 30, 40-year career, they accumulate experience. They started as a frontline, lieutenant, first lieutenant, second lieutenant, and so they get that experience. But then, as they go up in command, they just gain more, and so for for myself at Fort Bragg, I was at there's a division level, then below that there's a brigade level, there's a battalion level, then there's company level, and then there's and so at each point, these career officers get that experience, and then you learn how to command, and for them, for the current SecDef, he doesn't have the experience, and you can easily see that in how he's operating himself, how he conducts himself as an officer, and so going from a weekend broadcaster to Pentagon, that's a huge jump, like what the heck, man. And so it's difficult as a veteran to see this like unravel our we're there to win our nation's battles. That's what we signed up for, to win. And right now how they're handling this over this app, sharing war plans, that's unheard of. Going to Afghanistan, we had, just to talk to each other, we had encrypted messaging, with our radios, and for these guys to text stuff like this, it's unmanageable, and so I can only imagine our counterparts looking at this as an opportunity, and see as our military is downgraded with some of these decisions, group chat, And then, even I don't mess up that bad, right? Like, you include a journalist into your group chat, and so that speaks, that's a reflection of the administration, and how they handle issues. And so when it comes to the military, I'm kind of concerned, about our standing in the world, and how they can use this as an opportunity to advance their own agenda. What's going on in Russia? What's going on with China? These things are happening. It's real life, and so joke about it, but it's a serious thing. And so as veterans, I think we need to speak up more, and at least a letter writing a campaign or something, op-eds about how we truly feel, and Dan Newhouse needs to understand that. So thank you. Can you pass me the water?
Yes. Pass the water. Yes. Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Now, Nin, I think we're seeing how the sort of working class and working people are being impacted by the Trump administration, and many ways getting sort of decimated. What's the labor community experiencing? How can we do a better job of connecting and making sure that our working class folks that are right here in this community get better support? And what does Dan Newhouse need to hear from union members like yourself?
Great. Yeah, it's gonna be kind of a long answer. So it's difficult to say how we aren't impacted at any level, especially our union UAW, because from our more hands-on manufacturing side, we're all working class folks, but they're being impacted directly by the tariffs immediately because there's already layoffs, and the tariffs are going to increase prices, and yeah, everyone needs to buy groceries, and we're not making a lot of money. And it just makes everything even tighter, especially if we're concerned about, are they going to close our plant completely? And especially like for the more academic side of our union, like folks like me, we've been directly impacted by the hiring freezes and the cuts to NIH, NSF, and USDA funding. Like I myself, I'm funded through USDA to do my research. And we weren't even sure if my funding would go through or it'd be released. And a lot of people doing research on, women's healthcare, for some reason, like that matters. For some reason, the administration doesn't think that matters, and they need to freeze those things. So like a lot of my colleagues who are doing groundbreaking research, they don't know if they're going to have funding. So we're affected across the board. And yeah, it's not a great time for us, in all honesty. I'm trying to be more positive about it. But it's not just like our academic folks and our manufacturing folks, it's everybody who's being affected, not just by the tariffs, but by their policy actions. Like they're making it difficult by literally firing the people who are supposed to protect workers and specifically union labor from being fired. They just fired the folks who are on the Merit Systems Protections Board, who's supposed to look and see whether they fired people unjustly, and then they just fired the person who's one of the Democratic commissioners on the National Labor Relations Board. So they're targeting everything across the board, it's making it difficult for unions to operate in general, and also specifically targeting our academic unions. But it's not just all doom and gloom. I'm just trying to point out like these are the things that we're facing, but the reason why I have hope is because, again, it's about solidarity and not being alone. And I'm here also as the delegate of the Yakima Central Labor Council. And I really see the hope because I'm inspired by our peers at WFSE, or the Washington Federation for State Employees down in Olympia, who've been really acting and advocating for unions. Because the Central Labor Council, the stuff that they do is they advocate for candidates who really support working class folks. They also help sponsor things like the May Day event that's going to happen at Miller Park in May. And we're also, as our union, we're joining other folks in having organizations or organizing events such as Kill the Cuts, where we're calling folks, asking them to be like, hey, what are you going to do to fight against the cuts to Medicaid, to Medicare, to NIH funding, to NSF funding? Because I don't know if you guys recognize this or haven't heard this yet, but for every dollar spent on NIH funding, it returns a $2.50 like net income. But for USDA, ARS, for every dollar we spend, it's a $20 net gain. And especially in these rural areas like Dan's district, about $3 million in pure research funding goes here. And when I call my city hall, every dollar that's spent there, it brings back $4 to our community directly. And yeah, my friends, a third of them were fired at a research center. That's about 10 people. We recently just had someone take the buyout because he's probationary. And probation for a USDA ARS scientist, that's a PhD level position, it's 3 years. He's doing groundbreaking research to help make grapevines more efficient. And apparently that's not efficient to Doge. No. But no, it's difficult to ask him to stay when it seems like the government doesn't care. But we still have a lot of people who are willing to care, and that's why I believe in fighting and doing as much as we can for working people and labor.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, so now we get to answer your questions. So the way this is going to work is that if you had said that you were interested in asking a question, you were given a note card with a number on it. Isabella is going to, we're using a random generator that is sort of spinning through the numbers, and Isabella is going to pull those numbers and announce them. If you are able to make your way to the microphone when you hear your number called, that will help. If you have any trouble with mobility and you need someone, you need us to bring a microphone to you, please just raise your hand and we'll run the mic to you. Okay, so with that, Isabella.
Hi everyone. All right, so I'm gonna call these numbers 3 at a time, and if you could all come up at once, and then we'll just form a line right behind me. All right, the first 3 numbers are 29, 40, and 59. If you took a number and you don't want to ask a question, just let me know and I'll go to the next person.
Can you say the numbers one more time?
29, 40, and 59.
Great. And as you're making your way up, we're going to ask that folks keep questions to about a minute. If you want to just do a very quick introduction of your name, and then get into your question. And we're going to try to move as quickly as we can to try to get to as many questions as we can this evening. So, all right, do we have our first?
All right, I'll take number 29. Great, you're right there.
Thank you. I think I should have bought lottery tickets.
Lucky tonight, yes.
My question is to the whole panel.
Your name, sir?
Jim Landon, retired teacher from the Cedar School District. We attended the rally last weekend down on 40th and was absolutely amazed by the turnout for it. My question to anybody on the panel, what else can we do to organize to move forward with this in our valley? Because what we're seeing right now, what I've heard tonight, is just so critical. So just anybody.
Great, thank you. Anyone want to start?
I'll take a shot.
Okay.
First off, Jim, thanks for what SELA schools have done for our kids. Here's the answer. Do everything, everywhere, all the time. And that's just, and I know that sounds almost like a cliche, but it's not. It's exactly everything. That means talk to your folks in your church and at your dinner table, even if they're cranky uncles. It means getting on the internet every possible way you can, in every possible way that is open to you. It means finding candidates at the right moment that are going to be supportive of what you believe in and go out there and help them out. And I'm going to tell you, it can make a huge difference. Your being here tonight is making a difference. But let me give an example about this issue of helping a candidate. So I decided to run in 1988 because Deb Hunt called me up and asked me to run for the legislature. And I didn't have a prayer at the time. I was running against a well-known Republican mayor of Yakima. But she called and asked me to run. And our campaign committee consisted of Trudy and me and Phil. And that was it, okay? And we were standing around once making yard signs. And Phil got tired of me just being nervous and everything. He says, look, Jay, just take your yard sign, go out on the street corner, and smile at people and say hello, okay? So I had a friend who decided to help me. And I did what he suggested to do. And as a result, I served this valley for 6 years. And I'm proud of that service. And it happened because I had a friend who helped me. Find a friend, go help them. We'll do good things.
Anyone else?
For a while, after I moved home, I got involved with the county Democrats. The 14th, at the time it was the 14th and 15th, were kind of mixed in together before redistricting it. And so, you know, back then, about 10 years ago, it was a pretty small group, you know. But we were mighty because we showed up. And so I know I've been really busy the last couple of years, but, you know, showing up to the county Democrat meetings, the 14th, 15th LD, I was a state committee man. And representing us at the state convention and doing a lot of those things, advocating, and so that's one thing I really encourage them. So I'm really glad I got this handout. Someone's out front handing these out, you know. That's what it takes, you know. So appreciate that.
In addition to supporting local candidates and showing up to the Yakima County meetings, there's also a lot of great organizations that are issue-based that you can volunteer for. There's also nonpartisan orgs that are doing good work around voter registration, voter education, voter engagement. So there's a lot of opportunities in the Lower Valley. So I just wanted to add that. Do you have anything?
No, and on top of that, keep up the pressure, keep emailing, reaching out, as we saw when the Affordable Care Act was up for debate in the federal Senate. John McCain did his thumbs down. That political pressure putting that up and keeping it up kind of really does put that pressure on people to listen. There was one more thing, but I kind of lost my train of track when I was saying that. But also just talking with people. That was what I was wanting to talk about. Talking with people, doing the research of how it's going to impact us locally, trying to keep it local, also helps with relating to it. Because again, with the Medicare cuts, people who don't know what Medicare does, they don't know. You don't know what you don't know, unless someone kind of tells you and explains it to you in a way that you kind of understand. So doing the research of like, what is it going to impact? What is it going to affect? Again, with the Medicare cuts, it's going to impact our local community of us being able to have health care. If I get in a car crash, I'm going to have to wait an hour to get actually to a hospital that's going to be able to care for me. Or can I do it here locally? So just making it local and kind of communicating and just explaining things, because people just don't know what they don't know.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm going to take moderator's privilege and state party chair's privilege to add my note, which is that what we are seeing at these amazing, demonstrations that are happening across the country is that it's pulling people who have never been involved in anything like this before. We are finding that there are people that are coming out who don't know who their congressperson is, don't know that there's a state legislature, do not know, really have never been involved. And this is our opportunity as, the fact that you have shown up tonight is proof of your interest and your commitment and your willingness to be a part of this moment and this movement that we all need to be a part of. And so we have to be and operate as like a mutual aid organization. We have to be making sure that we are putting out good information, that we are not, even accidentally, putting out misinformation or disinformation, that we are helping people get connected to resources, that we are showing that, lowercase d Democrat, lowercase democracy really matters too. That being good neighbors and being a part of community and showing up and then getting folks plugged into the work. It is important and great to see people at protests, but the work is winning. We have to win elections. We have to win. We have to get back to winning. I was talking to our folks that are part of our local party organizations out here. We need a candidate for Yakima City Council. Who's going to stand up and raise their hand and say, all right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to hold my signs on the corner and I'm going to be out there. And then who's going to be around that person and say, and be Phil, and be that person who says, I'll hold your hand, I'll be there for you. I will put you on these doors. I'll knock doors with you. I'll make those phone calls with you. I'll write postcards. That is what we have to be doing. And every election, there's elections happening, there's levies that are happening right now in April. Filing week is just a month away. And Democrats across this country, we're winning in special elections because people are mad and they're showing up. And so even though I know it's been tough at times in this district, we have an opportunity and we need to meet the moment and continue to find ways for people to feel like they can do meaningful action at this time as being a part of this work and this movement. So thank you.
Again, really difficult to follow up with these people. But I was going to say, yes, call Dan. Call your state folks. Because what surprised me is when I called during December about the government shutting down possibly, his staffer responded really, really despondently. Everyone else who called told me that they want Dan to close the government down. And my brain just went, what? If you're not calling, other people are. Other people who just want to see everything burn. So, and when I've called for my coworkers who were fired, again, staff, I've called people from everyone. To understand how PhDs work, I create an Excel sheet, which I share with other people, that breaks down how much money goes to each district and each state in terms of USDA funding, and then mail out to other people with a script. And also, yes, please make scripts to help other people call. And doing this is my personal time, not as a WC employee. Because the other part is to make it easy for people to call, because they say want to help, they don't know how. It's like, hey, here's a script, this is what to do. Hey, here's a template for what to mail. Because the important part is getting other folks who live in those districts for the House Ag and Appropriations Committees, which is what I was targeting. Their staffers had no idea what was happening. Their staffers didn't know they fired veterans. Their staffers were surprised. And then I have to go and explain to them that the House Ag Committee created the USDA and you have oversight over it. You can't just say I should call the USDA to complain. because they need someone to tell them these things, apparently. And they're humans, and they care, but they don't seem to care unless someone tells them.
Okay, Isabel, our next question.
Thank you for being here this evening, Governor Inslee. Trudy, my mom says hi. My name is Dan Peters, and I am on the school board in SELA. I'm speaking tonight as a, I don't know what's happening with SELA tonight. We rigged something. I'm speaking tonight as a parent and as a community member from SELA. And I wrote my question for Representative Newhouse, but please feel free to answer it yourselves. So Representative Newhouse, in communities like SELA, children count on school lunches, not just for nutrition, but for stability. And local farmers depend on these programs to keep their farms alive. Governor Inslee mentioned the incredible work of teachers in SELA, and I want to add the amazing positive work done by our Nutrition Services Department, who make healthy, delicious scratch meals daily. With the recent billion-dollar cuts to USDA funding for farm-to-school programs, especially important here in the fruit basket of the nation, especially relevant here in the fruit basket of the nation, we've lost a bridge between the fields that feed us and the families who need it the most. So, Representative Newhouse, how will you fight for the kids who go to school hungry, the parents lining up at the food banks, and the farmers watching their markets disappear? And I'll ask, how can we fight for them as well? Thank you.
Well, first off, I used to think that the Democratic Party was a fair organization, but when you pick the son of the guy who gave me my first job as a speaker, something's phony here. I don't know what's going on here, but to get Dan up there is amazing. Dan, I got to tell you, I'm so proud of you. Your dad would be so proud of you. Thank you for what you've done for the families. So I'm going to speak in the language, if I may, of Dan Newhouse. What I'm going to tell you, Dan, tonight is that I've had an epiphany. And that epiphany is I've decided, even though it takes some courage, even though it takes some spine, even though it takes standing up against a president of my party, I can no longer countenance throwing the children of the Yakima Valley overboard just so I can give tax cuts to rich people, and I can't do that anymore. Okay?
That felt like a mic drop. That felt. All right, our next question.
Do we have someone with the number 59? 59? All right, we're moving on to the next one. Number 73 and 38. 73? 73? All right, 38? 38, no? Okay, 67? Number 67. All right, can you come up to the mic, or do you want me to bring it to you? Okay. If I could also have number 47 and 33 come up, if those are your numbers.
Yeah, my name's Danny Adolph, past chair of the Democrat Party for Yakima County, state committeeman. Paul George and Deb Hunt got me involved in politics, and I've been trying to stay involved ever since then. And they were a force to be reckoned with, as Jay, you know. I can remember sitting at behind Jay when he was a very young man down at the fairgrounds, and little did I realize at that time that I was looking at the future governor of our state. So congratulations on your political successes and your great leadership. I just want to say that Jay is living proof that Democrats can get elected in the Yakima Valley. This used to be of Blue County. Something changed over the years, and I think thanks to Mr. Trump, I think we're going to see the pendulum go the other way. So, no question, I just wanted to give my opinion on what's going on. And I've been in this valley for 82 years, or since 1946. And I wasn't born here, so that tells you how old I am. And so I've seen a lot of changes. But it can happen. It's going to take work. It's going to take dedication. But it can happen. History has a way of repeating itself. And good history, hopefully, does repeat itself. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Barb Linden, and I'm also from Sela. So kind of interesting. Us Sela people must be getting a little irritated with what's going on in the government. I have so many things I could say. I'm older, come with a lot of wisdom, and it looks like a lot of other people in this audience also. Face that. I don't want to see my grandchildren dealing with what's coming down the pike. Makes me very angry. I'm also going to mention, start teaching our kids civics so that they understand what's happening in their world. The other thing is go back to teaching history, real history of what's happening. We've lost so much by these people hiding some of the terrible things that they've done in our society. Now that I've gone on from that, I want to mention that I'm a retired nurse, 40 years, and I'm tired. I see what has happened to medicine, and we're going to implode, and we need to build it all up back again. It'll be our doctors and our nurses and our techs. Everybody has to come to the forefront to help people. The last thing I want to say is I'm also a graduate of the Edward R. Murrow School of Communications at WSU, and we need to get back to journalism, truthful journalism, and allowing people to tell what's really happening in this world. And I don't know how we're going to build it up with the way that our communications are now, but we have to have a way that everyone can understand what's happening. And it goes back to the same old adage of my old journalism professor: who, what, where, when, and why. And there's no lies. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sergio Garcia. I'm an affordable housing developer. Usually when I'm in front of a huge crowd, it's a NIMBY, which stands for not in my backyard. So my question for the panel is, how can we bring more economic development to Central Washington to promote financial mobility for middle-income families? Ultimately, my frustration with the area is that a lot of the youth go out to college and they don't necessarily come back, which has been both instrumental for those who are older and need those youth for supportive services, or just to support our economy altogether.
Thank you.
Sergio, it's good to see you again. Sergio and I went to YBC together. Yeah, there you go. I love this question. It was a primary priority of my campaign last cycle. Workforce development is critical for the Yakima Valley. When you look at the Yakima Valley population, almost 30% of the population is under the age of 18. Extremely young county. But if we're not bringing the jobs that these young folks want to see, want to do, we're going to continue to lose our talent. Trust me, there's nothing wrong with going out into the world, experiencing a different lifestyle, and bringing those skill sets back. It's critically important. I did it. A lot of my friends have done it. But in order for us to retain that talent here, one, we have to create those jobs. Two, we have to have shovel-ready work sites If you look at Tri-Cities, that region is booming. It's booming for a number of reasons. One is because we have made that infrastructure investment where we can bring clean energy jobs. But the reason why those clean energy jobs are being created is one, they have the workforce that is trained and ready to work. Two, they have a housing market that is available and it's diverse. Three, they have a quality of life, right? It's affordable, there's outdoors, there's things to do. So if we could try to replicate or try to learn from our community down in Tri-Cities and try to put those metrics in place in the Yakima Valley, I think we can create that workforce that you're thinking about, Sergio. And then another thing that we have the potential here is data centers, clean energy data centers. But the reality is that we just don't have the power to bring some of those big tech jobs into the Yakima Valley. So I look forward to working with our Yakima County Commissioners. I've had a few conversations with them about workforce development and what we need to do to make sure that we keep our young talent here and that we're not losing that talent. But we're all open to suggestions as well.
And then I'm going to add, at one point in my life, I was also an elected official. I was on council for the Yakima Nation, and I was chair of our overall economic development committee. and with that, you know, there's a partnership is huge here in Central Washington. If we're able to connect more with tribes like the Yakima Nation on economic growth, the Yakima Nation is one of the largest employers in Yakima County. We have a casino down there that employs non-tribal members, and so we all can't work at these jobs. And so there's a lot of opportunities when you partner, and so bringing together not just tribal leaders, you know, county commissioners, our state reps, Congressman Newhouse on economic development plans, which includes dialogue with the Yakima Nation, it goes a long way, and we can bring a lot of jobs to this area if we just partner more and think about the opportunity that the Yakima Nation has as a land base with our current infrastructure that we currently have. And so that's one thing that I think that's overlooked a lot, is the power that a tribe has that it carries by itself. Thank you.
That was a really great question, and it does bring up, in my introduction I said I'm from California, and I said I came here because WSU has a really strong legacy of applied research. And I think that's really one of the keys of having people come here. It's not just me, like our research station out in Prosser, we've been able to recruit scientists from around the world and around the nation who are experts in their field, and they've come to love the Yakima Valley. But what's happening is that's all being put to threat by the cuts to USDA funding. They're threatening to cut, well, again, they're being very secretive about it. No one knows if Wapato is going to be shut down, Prosser's going to be shut down, Pullman's going to be shut down. Nobody knows. But the problem is that uncertainty makes it so that no one wants to have a job at the USDA anymore. And we have folks who are here who originally aren't from here, but they live in Zilla, they live in Sunnyside, they live in Prosser. But like one of the keys that I see of like helping revitalize the area and bring folks in is make great paying jobs where it's not just them, they're hiring local folks. A lot of the technicians here from Sunnyside, Yakima, Prosser, Tri-Cities even. But yeah, that's one of the key things that we aren't looking at either.
And I was just going to add a little bit more on the affordable housing too, is as it relates to private equity. We're seeing the same thing in healthcare where private equity is buying up and viewing that as the new frontier for making money for their shareholders and people who own private equity. So recognizing that and having a partnership and intentionality at the city, the county level is going to be super important to make sure that having it go to the people in the community that it needs to versus it being owned by people that don't live here is going to be super important to make sure, again, from that affordable housing perspective, those private equity firms, they want to see the maximum amount that they can get. So what are they going to do? Big houses, big complexes, and then try to, for lack of a better word, manipulate the market in order to get the rent that they want so that they can keep increasing it and basically have a monopoly on the system. And so just recognizing that, being aware of that, talking about that, and seeing what you can do at a local community level, whether it's city council, whether again it's at the county level, and trying to really see who's buying up this land. And again, doing strategic decisions about developing affordable housing. And maybe you don't have to have these big lavish yards. It doesn't maybe have to be all this thing, and building like these little communities that are affordable housing and then kind of be these starter homes.
The last thing we knew is the federal government to hurt economic development in the Yakima Valley. And currently the Trump administration is hurting economic development in the Yakima Valley. Obviously through the loss of the markets we've talked about. But I want to share you a couple other reasons why the current budget that Congressman Newhouse has voted for is injurious. One is it guts the Bonneville Power Administration. And the Bonneville Power Administration is the group that essentially can bring electricity to Central Washington so we can grow jobs here. And they've cut it by 20%. We have to build new transmission lines to these new businesses. But we can't do that if there's nobody there to design them and get them permitted. It is a major stranglehold on economic development in Central Washington. That's not waste, fraud, and abuse. It's jobs in Central Washington so we can get electricity distributed throughout this system. That's number one. Number two, just something, everybody has a hits. They come in every morning. This morning, Donald Trump attacked the state of Washington because we recognize that we create jobs through clean energy. We're doing it in Grant County with silicon anode batteries. The two leading silicon anode battery companies in the whole world are in Grant County. Group 14 and Sela. The name is Sela, right? Great name for a battery company. Right next door is the 12 company, a leading sustainable aviation company to have sustainable aviation fuel. In Malaga, we're going to have a new fusion. The first fusion plant in the whole world is going to be in Central Washington if we don't repeal the things we voted on and successfully supplied, which is the Climate Commitment Act. This county, I believe, voted to maintain the Climate Commitment Act. This morning, Donald Trump attacked it and said he's going to try to take away the right of Washingtonians to decide our own clean energy future. And I'll tell you this, he is not going to take over Greenland, and he's not going to take over the Evergreen State either. We're going to keep the clean energy disaster.
Yeah, that too. Yes, our next question.
Hi, I'm Shelley Lounsbury Griffin. I actually drove down from Ellensburg, so not Sela, sorry. So, quick question. How many people in this room are under 30 years old? Can you raise your hand? So, what as a community are we going to do about getting younger people interested in our democracy and being vocal? At all the protests we're at, I'm one of the youngest people at like 58. So what can we do to get younger people involved?
Great question. Do you all want to take it first? Okay.
Go ahead. Anybody else want to go first? Well, listen, one thing, I'm working with a group called Climate Power, and we're trying to make sure that young people can understand what they can do for clean energy jobs fighting climate change. I believe this is the single most resonant thing we can do to get people under the age of 30, because they're the ones who, A, understand science, they're the ones with decades life ahead of them, and they understand that unfortunately, and this is very unfortunate, that at the moment there's only one party that actually wants to fight climate change. And the president believes wind turbines cause cancer. We know they cause jobs. And young people, if we do outreach to young people to get them to understand we need leaders who will fight climate change, we're going to bring back a lot of those young people. And this is important to the future of the Democratic Party. We lost 23%. We went down of 30-year-old and lower voters. So we got to speak to these folks. Let's make sure they know who's in favor of a healthy planet. It's the Democratic Party. We're going to make sure and tell them.
Absolutely. Yes.
And then just thinking about it from my own personal experience of how I've had to do my own research and stuff like this to be involved and kind of stuff like this is from a structural perspective. Again, this is where my nursing brain goes, is like, what's the system issue, not just the person issue. So from a structural level, what is important is making sure that we are teaching this in high schools. And then for example, on my part, I do for the nursing students their transition to practice. And so really at the end of their career, or at the end of their journey in nursing school, really getting them thinking about empowerment and like the mission and vision of Heritage and like our role within society of being the patient advocate, really putting home that we take on this advocacy role that's not just for ourselves, but for our communities, whether it's advocating for more funds so that we can expand more services, whether it's expanding scope or insurance for people that are not getting things covered and are halving their pills in half just to kind of microdose and make the medications last. So again, from a structural level, it's making sure that education is giving them the civics, giving them that strong foundation to also question. I remember, part of me always remembers from my 7th grade teacher was when she did a thing for us watching the Super Bowl and like, what are they trying to sell you? What is the information that they're conveying to you, and what are they trying to get out of you? And so like I've kept that in my mind when I hear stuff. It's like, okay, what am I hearing? What are they trying to influence me and stuff like that? And like doing my own research. And so that way you're not swayed. So just having like that central grounding to just have that, okay, let me just double check that what I'm getting told is correct. And having that questioning attitude. That's just stuck with me all the time. And that's, again, how I learn and try to stay away from misinformation, and I can find what the facts are.
A few things. One, I think we have a really, really strong group called Poder Latinx, and we actually have a few members of their org. Lucero, you guys want to say hi to people? So one way we could help them is by volunteering and supporting our young organizers. Believe it or not, I started out as an organizer when I was fairly young, and getting volunteers is one of my top priorities. And if you show up, if you volunteer and support their cause, you're supporting future leaders of the Yakima Valley. Yeah, it's called Poder, like power, Latinx, Poder Latinx. And there's other orgs here that are doing that work. So supporting our local organizers, empowering them is number one. Two, something that we found out a lot while we doorbelled across the 14th legislative district last cycle was a lot of folks just don't believe that their vote matters. And I can tell you, as someone who lost by 1,200 votes, their vote does matter. So, use that as an example, right? When you're talking to people, when you're volunteering and you're trying to get people to register to vote and to vote, really tell them. Races are won or lost by a handful of votes. Your vote matters. So those are a few things that I think would be helpful.
And then kind of adding to that is talking about leadership development for our youth. And so really trying to provide opportunities for them to get involved in some of these leadership development programs. And so, I was fortunate enough to apply to this. It's a program called IDF. Institute for Democratic Future, IDF 13 right here. So, and so through that program, IDF, my whole world changed. It changed. It opened my eyes, and I was able to connect with other youth, younger folks who had the same thing, and so. And over in Snohomish County, they have Snohomish County, like some type of leadership program within the county. And so I think we can replicate that here in Yakima County with this room by itself. We have so much experience we can share with our youth. We can invite them in, conversations with them, and they can teach us on what's going on. And so leadership development is key. After we build that foundation, we need to keep building upon it. And so that's something we should add as well.
And bring it in from like the labor organizing perspective, our peer UAW 4121, our local numbers all mean something. Like ours is 4591. It's 4 research and extension centers, 5 campuses, 9 as 1. While UAW 4121, it's basically always 1-to-1 for organizing. So really, if you want to get more people involved, especially young people, it's one-on-one conversations. You can't just be emailing them. Can't just be like, hey, did you see that thing that they're not going to open? It's you got to just talk to them. Because, yeah, people, you know them, they trust you. And when you go like, hey, this is kind of scary, and usually people try not to chime in with the news at all. And especially here, it's kind of scary. They're like, nope. But so just like for us, what really works is just talking to people, keeping the door open, not pressuring folks. But that's what we found has like really worked. And to me, it's really important since we have a lot of international students in our union, and they're especially targeted right now. We've had visas of folks across UAW broadly being canceled, and people are just afraid. They're afraid to even say anything. They're afraid to stand up for anything, and they're usually some of the people who come from countries which don't really have a lot of freedoms. They have a lot of perspectives on what is at risk, but they are deathly afraid of saying anything, because they know they could just be disappeared at any time. And that's why we believe it's really important for us as domestic students to stand up and speak on their behalf and defend them. So yeah, that's a really great question, and yeah, just keep talking to people and keeping the door open.
Okay, thank you so much. And I think this is going to be our last question for the night.
Hi, I'm Monica Jenkins, born and raised in the Yakima Valley. I live in Natchez, and I'm pretty much up here to join the governor to represent UW. Go Dogs, my alumni. But my question is, first a little vent. I respect Michelle Obama, but I don't buy into when they go low, we go high. I feel like that's not been working. What entities are out there for people who want the truth and understand the truth to bombard people with the truth? What different tech or social media or new ways of reaching folks who, my husband accidentally pushed something, he is still getting Trump texts 5, 6, 7 times a day. And as annoying as that is, I do believe there are people who open those and believe that and are falling into the propaganda of lies. And I think we need to combat that with similar tactics with the truth. So what entities or organizations or AI or just progressive ways of doing things differently and more forward-facing are you aware of that we can support and get involved with? Because I want to go low.
Yes, yes. I do want to amplify that we just had a recent election for national leadership for the Democratic National Committee. We just elected a new chair, Ken Martin, who had been the chair of the Minnesota DFL party, and his mentor is Paul Wellstone, and he really comes from a true organizer background. And just last week, the DNC launched the People's Cabinet, which is uplifting our best communicators, and some of them are big names. that you know, like Pete Buttigieg and people like that, but some of them are farmers and teachers and people like everybody that's up here on this panel that are part of getting that messaging out and to be pushing back on what is happening on a daily basis from the Trump administration. And exactly what you're saying, we have to fight. We have to be in fight mode. That is where we are at. We were a little slow, but what I'm seeing right now is we are moving much faster than we have been. Just this past week, we launched the DNC War Room, where we are doing daily briefings that you all can join and listen to get that messaging. I want to highlight that the Washington State Democrats, we are doing a weekly newsletter from me that is including sort of actions that are happening around the state, how to get involved. We're also doing a Top Lines Talkers and Messaging newsletter that is about getting messaging from the national level, but also from the state level and also locally out to all of you. I think it's important to remember that with your phones that I know the majority of you all have, you are storytellers. You are able to connect with people in your community, in your network, by getting on this phone and recording yourself and saying, look, I just went to this people's town hall tonight, and here's what I'm hearing, here's what I'm seeing. Talking to those folks, finding young people who are the best at social media and encouraging them to get on and tell their stories. We have got to be flooding the airwaves and flooding our communities with stories like we've just heard tonight. And you all have them. You are not separate. You are all a part of that. And so we have got to be fighting back and pushing back. Nin mentioned earlier about calling, Newhouse's office. There's a lot of authoritarianism and fascism. They do a lot of these test balloons, right? And the tariffs were a test balloon. Just today, right, seeing all the action that happened this past weekend, pulled it back. The fact that we're winning special elections, they pulled back having Elise Stefanik to be the UN ambassador. They're testing us. So the more that we ourselves take that and are empowered to be the people that are pushing back, this is not something that is somebody else's job. This is all of ours. We have to be in all of this, as Jay said, every day, everywhere, all the time, doing this work and fighting back. I think the ACLU is doing an amazing job. I think the indivisible groups are doing an amazing job. I think that there are community groups that are right here that are doing amazing work that we need to be amplifying and connecting and really making sure that people know that there are ways to get involved everywhere right now, and we can do that. I think that's really important.
Also at one point in my life, I was involved in direct nonviolent action. That's a thing, right? I was an activist, student activist, down in the Southwest, and they wanted to start a coal-powered power plant on the Navajo reservation. And as a student group, we activated ourselves to do that type of work. We set up a blockade. I was labeled an activist. That's kind of crazy thinking about that now, I'm like an activist. And so, nonviolent direct action training is available out there. If that's something you really want to do, there's organizations that can do it in a good, safe way. There's ways, and so that's something. And really, I'm a tribal advocate just because tribes have so much influence, and that's kind of unseen sometimes. And so work with your tribe, learn about your local tribe, learn about the Yakima Nation, go to their website, be an advocate for them, because sometimes when it comes to environmental justice, we let us lead the way, because we've been here, we know what's good for our land. And so listen to the tribal leaders when they talk. They got all these energy projects. That's good, but it needs to be in consultation with tribes and then how they feel about these energy projects. And so that's my second thing is, thank you.
Okay, with that, we have a special request from Governor Inslee. He wants to, I think, record a video quickly with all of you. And so I will let him. Yes.
Okay, so I want to make sure that we convey to Congressman Newhouse what we really want him to know. And I think what we want them to know is, if we were going to send a message from what I've heard tonight, is if I could unify everything, it would be stand up to Donald Trump. Stand up to Donald Trump. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to do a selfie video of us, and I'm going to ask what you'd like to say to Congressman Newhouse, and I'll go 1, 2, 3, and you can tell him, stand up to Donald Trump. Are you all ready? Okay, so here we go. Here we go. Congressman Newhouse, I'm in Yakima. I'm thrilled to be here today at a town hall. Apparently you haven't been able to do one for a while. I hope that you will do that. But I wanted to help you out by letting you know what the citizens of Yakima Valley think. So I'm going to ask this crowd, what would you like Dan Newhouse to do? 1, 2, 3. Stand up to Donald Trump! I think that's pretty clear, Dan. I hope you're listening. Thanks, guys.
Well, what a way to finish the night. I want to say a big thank you to all of our amazing panelists who have just been so fantastic. Thank you all for being here with us tonight. I want to thank all of you for coming. We've sent notice to Representative Newhouse that he has got to answer to the people of this district. So thank you all. I hope everyone has a wonderful night, and thank you for all the work you're doing. We're in this together. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Charles, for the speech. All in Mind Gang, wildlife program manager. Oh, okay. Are you